Both Azula and Zahir were dynamic and powerful benders. They employed skillful offenses with substantial defenses. The large wildcard in this matchup is Azula's lightning and Zahir's flight. No, I do not think Zahir's ability of suffocation would be efficient against a bender of Azula's caliber. He has only used his ability against an incompetent Earth Queen and a defeated Korra. To me, this means he needed concentration to suffocate his foe. This would not be the case against Azula, and it is a non-factor in a direct conflict between the two. That being said, there is still the issue of Azula's lightning and Zahir's flight. Zahir's flight gave him the ability to outmaneuver his opponents to an even greater degree. Without it, he was already extremely agile. For this, I doubt he would get hit by Azula's fire or lightning. But lightning is always a tricky thing to pin down. It was a major wild card. Even if Azula missed her initial assault, her strike could fork and snag Zahir, so it shouldn't be counted out entirely. Still, I think it's far more likely that Zahir could dodge her more than not. Even Amon could dodge lightning, and I place his abilities on par with a non-bending Zahir. As I've mentioned several times before, with Zahir's added augmentation with flight and airbending in general, I think he'd be hard to touch. Yes, he did wither under the assault of Tenzin, but I think this was due more to a lack of experience than anything else. He would have had plenty of experience against firebenders and their fighting principles. He could successfully evade Azula and eventually get his hits in. Therefore, I give Zahir the slight edge in terms of his bending abilities. What made Azula so deadly in combat was not her physical agility or her bending prowess, but her astute intellect. A master manipulator, an excellent strategist, and an educated mind, Azula was truly one of the most well-versed firebenders of her age. When one thinks of a princess, one does not usually associate her with her nation's military. Azula demolished that stereotype, leading several campaigns for the Fire Nation. The most notable of her crusades would be against Ba Sing Se, which she was able to take over through a covert operation, disguising herself as a Kyoshi warrior. Azula also had a great comprehension of her nation's history, especially in regards to its many battles. But where she was most effective was in one-to-one combat. Princess Azula could read others like no one else. Typically in combat, she would slowly work on her opponent, looking for apparent weaknesses she could exploit. This mindset would extend to her interpersonal relationships, manipulating her friends and family for her own benefit. Even in a simple kawaii ball game, she pinpointed her opponent's frailty and capitalized on it. Though Azula could read others, it was difficult for others to read her. Even Toph, the earth-bending prodigy, couldn't tell whether or not Azula was lying. In a fight, this would mean that she was hard to predict. She did not often telegraph her moves before she employed them. Typically, Azula's procedure in a fight was to pepper her foe with a soft use of martial arts or firebending, sizing them up more than anything else. Once she found something she could exploit, she would rev up her attack, unleashing her unmitigated power, utilizing her fire or lightning bending to end the exchange. Azula was the Bobby Fischer of bending combat, engaging in perceptive combat with sheer talent. Zahir was no military general, but he was an efficient covert specialist. Zahir was less an Alexander the Great and more a Navy SEAL. This would make sense, as Zahir was part of a secret society that worked behind closed doors. He probably led the team that attempted to kidnap Korra. He orchestrated the escapes of his fellow Red Lotus members, and he spearheaded the infiltration of Zhao Fu, a city thought to be impenetrable. Though he was more ferocious than most airbenders, his strategy was basic: defend until there was an opening, then counter. The chief difference was that he did not hold back on his counters, not afraid to throw someone off a cliff or sap the air from their lungs. While most airbenders usually geared themselves to wars of attrition, Simply outlasting their foes, Zahir made sure to end the conflict as soon as he got the chance. Zahir was certainly a great tactician in a fight, but Azula had the better accolades. While Zahir was very skillful, Azula was a tad more tactical. Azula was always picking apart her opponents, always looking for their weaknesses. She was familiar with several military strategies and fighting techniques, able to contend with benders and non-benders alike. Though Zahir was more powerful than the typical airbender, the basis of his strategy was rooted in rudimentary airbending techniques. Thus, the edge goes to Azula for her tactical abilities. The fight between Princess Azula and Zahir would be extremely plausible. Zahir did not like monarchies, and Azula hated everyone who did not like her. She would be willing and able to fight, but Zahir would certainly be a worthy opponent. What he lacked in bending experience, he made up for with his non-bending martial arts and his natural affinity for airbending. Let's set up this fight. Let's say it takes place at the royal palace of the Fire Nation. Zahir has come to assassinate Azula for her tyrannical rule over her people. As a final tally, I would say the advantage to the victor goes 6-10. The following is a hypothetical battle of one of the majority victories. Azula stands before a floating Zahir, taking no time at all to punch out fireballs at the intruder. Zahir would instantly glide away, evading the fireballs with little effort. His successful dodges would not deter Azula's onslaught. She would keep coming and coming, throwing out fire kicks and punches, ending with sustained fire blooms. But nothing hits, nothing comes close to Zahir. Just as Azula stops her attack, Zahir starts jabbing at her with his own airbending assault. Likewise, Azula is able to evade his attacks, countering with her own fire sweeps. Occasionally, she would glide away with her own form of semi-flight. For a few moments, they seem to be at an impasse, attacking and counterattacking with lethal precision. They would trade many blows, Zahir caught by the edges of Azula's flames, and Azula tripped up by Zahir's wind. Eventually, Azula would tire of the dance, unleashing haphazard strikes of lightning. Still, Zahir would evade, only occasionally caught by the minor forking of the lightning. Flustered under the skill of a worthy opponent, Azula would begin losing her usual cool, and the fight would turn for the worse. Zahir would adhere to the base principles of airbending, outlasting his foe. As the fight raged on, Azula would become more sloppy, more unraveled. Her strikes would be wider, less precise, and at the end of the day, she would be caught with a powerful air kick, pushed back into one of the royal palace's pillars. Zahir would descend upon her, moving his hands in a circular motion. The air in Azula's lungs would begin to drift from her body. Slowly, but surely, she would have no air left to breathe. But she does not give up. In her last breath, her fingers begin to spark with lightning. Suddenly, there would be a flash. Azula will lay on the ground inert, unmoving, breathless. Zahir will lay feet away from her, his body giving off smoke. For a moment, it would seem that they were both gone. But Zahir will begin to stir, lifting himself to his feet, though half of his face is burned. And thus, I declare Zahir, the disciple of Guru Lahima, the leader of the Red Lotus, the battered but surviving victor. Of course, this is all just my opinion. Please leave your thoughts and comments below. Do you think Azula would have won the majority, or do you agree that Zahir would have the ultimate victory? Peace, love, and remember, be water, my friend. while Katara had a skill with agility, she was not as honed as Amon, who dedicated himself to his non-bending efforts. And though Amon was an extremely capable... Do I like it? Do I not like it? Oh, I actually kind of like it. Oh my god, I like airbending a lot. Oh god, I like it. And wanting to meet her father's oh my god. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, I'm gonna burp. Throw up. Yep, I had some throw up in my mouth. No, that's gross. I had some bacon potato soup, and it's starting to come up right now. It's pretty bad. All right, here we go. But he was still feared as one of the most prodigious and dangerous airbenders of all his time. Oh my god, I think the first one was fine, but I heard myself fart on the one of the most feared had like, yeah, but I think it's fine. You know what? I'm talking too much. Let's go. Continue. Oh no, my spines.